Working at a gas station on the night shift had always been a lonely job, but one fateful night took the isolation to a whole new level of horror. As the clock struck midnight, the outside world was shrouded in darkness, and the dim fluorescent lights of the gas station buzzed faintly, casting eerie shadows across the pumps. The constant hum of the highway nearby was the only sound that broke the silence, making the solitude feel even more suffocating. I was engrossed in some menial task, trying to distract myself from the solitude, when a car pulled up to one of the pumps. Relieved to have some company, I rushed out to assist the customer. But as I approached the vehicle, a feeling of dread washed over me. The car was old and dilapidated, covered in a thick layer of grime and rust. The driver's window was cracked open, just enough to reveal a pair of bloodshot eyes staring back at me. The driver was a gaunt, disheveled figure, his face twisted in a grimace that sent shivers down my spine. I greeted him hesitantly and asked if I could help with anything. His voice was hoarse and barely audible as he asked for a pack of cigarettes. I handed them over, trying to avoid eye contact, but he reached out and grabbed my wrist with a vice-like grip. "Have you seen her?" he whispered, his breath reeking of alcohol and decay. "Seen who?" I stammered, trying to free myself from his grasp. "My daughter," he said, his eyes welling up with tears. "She disappeared around here years ago, and I've been searching for her ever since." I felt a chill run down my spine as I noticed a missing poster of a young girl taped to the inside of his car window. The girl's photo showed her smiling innocently, a stark contrast to the man's haunted expression. "I'm sorry, sir. I haven't seen anyone like that around here," I replied, my heart pounding in my chest. He released my wrist, and I quickly retreated back into the safety of the gas station. The man sat in his car for what felt like an eternity, staring out into the darkness. Finally, he started the engine and drove away, disappearing into the night. But the unsettling encounter was only the beginning of the horror that awaited me that night. As the hours passed, strange noises echoed throughout the gas station, footsteps where there should be none, whispers carried on the wind, and the sensation of being watched grew ever more intense. An unnerving feeling settled in the pit of my stomach, and I couldn't shake the sensation that something was terribly wrong. I tried to stay focused on my duties, but paranoia gripped me, and I found myself glancing over my shoulder every few seconds. Then, as the clock struck 3 a.m., the lights flickered and went out. Panic engulfed me as I fumbled for my flashlight, but its feeble beam only served to illuminate the dark corners of the gas station. The feeling of being watched intensified, and I could hear faint laughter echoing through the building. Suddenly, the lights came back on, revealing a horrifying sight before me. A young girl, her clothes tattered and stained, stood at the edge of the light, staring at me with empty, lifeless eyes. She looked just like the girl from the missing poster. Before I could react, the girl vanished into thin air, and the lights flickered once again. I stumbled back, my heart racing, and I knew I had to leave this accursed place. As I rushed towards the exit, the air turned icy cold, and the laughter grew louder, echoing through the gas station like a sinister chorus. I burst through the doors, gasping for breath, and never looked back. The gas station was never the same. After that night, rumors of its haunted nature spread like wildfire, and it was eventually shut down. To this day, I can't forget the haunted look in the father's eyes, or the empty stare of the girl from the missing poster. Some mysteries are best left unsolved, and that night at the gas station was a terrifying reminder of the darkness that lurks in the shadows when the world is asleep. The supermarket was a bustling hub of activity during the day, but at night, it transformed into an eerie, desolate place. I was the unfortunate soul assigned to the night shift, restocking shelves and ensuring the store was ready for the morning rush. Little did I know that this mundane job would soon become a nightmare beyond my wildest imagination. The first few nights went by uneventfully, the monotony of the job numbing my senses. But on the fourth night, as I wandered through the dimly lit aisles, I noticed a strange feeling of being watched. Each time I turned around, there was nothing there, just the flickering fluorescent lights casting ominous shadows. As I reached aisle 13, a chill crept down my spine. This aisle had always felt peculiar, even during the day, but at night, it took on an entirely different aura. The shelves were filled with canned goods and boxed items, but it was as if the products themselves exuded an unsettling energy. I forced myself to continue working, trying to shake off the irrational fear that had gripped me. But the strange occurrences escalated as the nights went on. I began to hear faint whispers echoing through the aisle, as if hidden voices were conspiring behind the products. Whenever I passed by, the whispers would stop abruptly, leaving me feeling on edge and disoriented. One night, I decided to bring a friend along, thinking that their presence might provide some comfort. But as we entered aisle 13, the temperature dropped drastically, and our breaths turned to fog in the air. The items on the shelves rattled and shook violently, as if a malevolent force resided within them. My friend, visibly spooked, suggested we must leave, but curiosity got the better of me. I needed to know what was causing this haunting phenomenon. As I reached for a box of cereal, the shelves seemed to come alive, and the products flew off the racks, narrowly missing us. Terrified, we fled the aisle, but the horror was far from over. The store's intercom crackled to life, emitting an eerie, distorted voice that seemed to chant in a foreign language. The other aisles darkened, and the flickering lights cast monstrous shadows that danced along the walls. I knew then that something malevolent was lurking in the supermarket, something that had awakened with the setting of the sun. My friend and I searched for an exit, but the store seemed to stretch infinitely, its layout shifting before our eyes. Panic consumed us, as we realized we were trapped in this nightmare. In a desperate attempt to escape, we ran back to aisle 13, where the haunting seemed to have originated. The shelves glowed with an otherworldly aura, and the whispers intensified into haunting cries. Amidst the chaos, a spectral figure emerged from the darkness, a twisted and contorted form, its eyes glowing with malice. The figure beckoned us closer, and an overwhelming sense of dread washed over us. I could feel an irresistible pull, as if it wanted to claim our souls for eternity. We mustered every ounce of courage, and fled in the opposite direction, zigzagging through the aisles in a frantic bid for escape. Just when it seemed all hope was lost, we stumbled upon an emergency exit. Without hesitation, we burst through the doors and into the cool night air. The supermarket's haunting was left behind, but the experience forever etched in our memories. From that night on, the supermarket was no longer a place of convenience and shopping, but a sinister realm ruled by an ancient malevolence. No one dared to work the night shift, and the store was eventually abandoned, left to decay with its chilling secrets locked away in aisle 13. It was my first night, working the graveyard shift, at the old, dilapidated factory on the outskirts of town. As the sun dipped below the horizon, darkness swallowed the place, casting eerie shadows across the rusted machinery and decaying walls. The air felt thick with history, as if every sound I heard was echoing from a distant, haunted past. My supervisor, an old man named Mr. Jenkins, handed me a set of keys and mumbled some instructions, his eyes darting nervously around the dimly lit factory floor. "Remember," he warned, "stay away from the East Wing. Strange things happen there, especially at night." His words sent a chill down my spine, but I laughed nervously, assuming it was just a silly old man's tale to scare the new guy. I tried to shake off the unease as I ventured into the sprawling factory, the metallic clangs of my footsteps echoing through the empty halls. As the hours passed, the factory took on an entirely different persona. Shadows danced in every corner, playing tricks on my mind. Strange noises echoed from the machinery, like ghostly whispers calling my name. I kept telling myself it was just my imagination, but the feeling of being watched never left me. With each passing minute, the factory seemed to come alive. The machines whirred and creaked, as if they were mourning their long-gone operators. At times, I thought I heard footsteps echoing in the distance, but every time I investigated, there was nothing there. It was as if the night had a life of its own, taunting and toying with me. The East Wing remained an ominous mystery, tempting my curiosity like a forbidden secret. I tried my best to avoid it, focusing on my tasks elsewhere, but an inexplicable force seemed to draw me closer to its foreboding entrance. Finally, curiosity got the better of me, and I decided to take a quick peek inside. As I approached, a chilling breeze seemed to emanate from the dark corridor. The air was heavy with the scent of decay and dampness. My hand trembled as I inserted the key into the rusty lock and turned it with a loud click. The door creaked open, revealing an impenetrable darkness that seemed to swallow the light from my flashlight. I stepped inside, and the door closed behind me with an eerie, echoing thud. The darkness was suffocating, and the silence was deafening. But then, faint sounds began to emerge, soft whispers, like distant cries for help, and the faint clanking of chains. I felt an overwhelming urge to leave, but my body seemed frozen in place. My flashlight flickered, and panic started to rise within me. Suddenly, a spectral figure appeared before me, pale and ghastly, its eyes devoid of life. It extended a cold, skeletal hand towards me, and a guttural voice echoed in my head, "Leave this place, mortal. You do not belong here." With a newfound burst of strength, I turned and fled from the East Wing, not looking back until I was back in the relative safety of the main factory floor. I continued to work, trying to shake off the encounter, but the sense of unease persisted, growing stronger with each passing minute. The night dragged on, and the factory's malevolence seemed to intensify. The machinery grew louder, the shadows darker, and the atmosphere more oppressive. I could swear I heard the sound of weeping coming from within the walls, and the feeling of being watched became an unbearable weight on my shoulders. Finally, as the first rays of dawn broke through the windows, I rushed towards the exit, desperate to escape the haunted place. I never returned to that factory again, and I quit my job on the spot. But the night shift shadows haunted me for the rest of my days, a constant reminder that some things are better left undisturbed in the darkness.